Hey everybody, Mr. O'Donnell here, walking you through how to be able to do your sports reporting for social media. We talked about this in class, and now here's a little tutorial about how to be able to do your steps on game day. So remember, this is all designed for us to be able to push out scores throughout the game, primarily, and it'll be based on the game. Sometimes we're going to want them. If it's like a football game, they'll be want to score per quarter. If it's a volleyball game, that can go between 3 to 5 games within a match. We'll want one after each game. So we'll talk about how often you should be putting this out. But the most important, hands down, is we got to be able to have the final score pushed out. So sometimes we may want to have a halftime and some other ones, but the final one is what we're originally going to begin with. All right, so here's the process. This is our Twitter account, and we want to be able to look like this, is these graphics, these images that are really going to pop and be able to have the users kind of say, hey, following along with what kind of happened as in the results of the game. So that's what we want to be able to push this thing out on, and here's your plan. First off, like we talked about in class, this is all going to be done through Google Slides. So before you head out to the game the day of or even the day before, you want to prep this. So let's say I'm going to be doing a football game. So I'm going to go ahead of time. This does not take very long. I'm going to open up our sports promos and scores document that we have been working on, and I want to find the appropriate one. So we're going to use the dark theme one. That is our one that we use for our the scores. Remember, the light colored one is the one we use for promos. The dark one is what we use for the scores. I have this giant big word template on there, and I hope that you can remember that means don't mess with this. This is the master copy of what to leave it as is. So from here we can build upon it. So when you are going ahead of time, let's say, like I said, I'm doing a football game. I want to be able to use this one. Don't use this one. As you can see, slide number 3 over here. I'm going to click over here on the slide on the left, and I need to be able to make one for me for tonight. And so that means I'm going to duplicate the slide. So if I right click it, I have some options, copy paste, but just go to duplicate slide, and now it will do a copy and paste both, and now give me 2 of them. That way, over here, number 3, we can leave and save it for the next person. It's clean. This is the one I'm going to start playing with. So how to be able to prep it? First thing is, let's click on this word template, get rid of that. And now I need to be able to go in here and start changing some things and getting ready. So the biggest things that I will not know until the game the game is over is what is actually the score. And so in the end, that's all we're really going to be able to do is you're going to go in here and do 2 things. You are going to swap out the score and put an image over here on this area and send it out. So basically 2 things need to be done afterwards. These are the things that will be done ahead of time. So first off, what is the sport that we're doing? I'm going to go over to here and put in the sport that I'm doing. This requires you to be in all caps. So if you can notice, I do not want us writing like this. We are doing all caps. So if you're going to be doing tennis, turn my all caps on and have it like that. We're not doing that. We're doing football, so I'll change that. If you're doing a longer sport like water polo, you can see it will be a little bit too large, so I can highlight it and reduce my size a little. We don't want to go too much farther out to the left because then it won't be balanced or centered appropriately with the final. So for longer sports, we just want to change the size on them. I'm going to undo several times and get back to where we were. Just like we did in Photoshop, everybody, undo, Control Z is your final, is your super friend. So if we were going to be doing something at halftime, I could prep that. Like this will be my halftime score, a little bit too long. Highlight all of that and reduce my size a little bit and such. So there we go. Or the final score. One way or another, there we go. I'm going to pretend that, hey, we're only going to do the final score. So I'm going to Control Z back to that. And here we go. Next, what team are we playing? We're going to say that we are playing Del Oro. So the one that was left on there on the template was Granite Bay. So I'm going to leave that right now. And the reason why is I want to show you this in terms of sizing. Go over to the slide number 2 where we have all of our logos from our different league opponents and go to copy. I'm going to go back over to here, and then I'm going to go to paste. And the reason I wanted to leave the Granite Bay on there is because you can see there's a size difference. I want you to match up this logo to the size of the existing one. Now notice as I move things around, there's these colors and lines, like red lines pop up and white lines. And what it is Google Slides is trying to tell you about lining things up and trying to help you a little bit. So notice if I come all the way down, do you see the red line down there on the bottom? It goes underneath Granite Bay and underneath Del Oro. And what that is basically saying is like, hey, if you let go here, Both of those graphics are perfectly aligned on the bottom of this. If I highlight the two of them, you can see they are perfectly on the bottom. The problem, of course, is Del Oro was way too large, but at least they're lined up appropriately on the bottom. Now I can grab the corner, and let's make a pledge, everybody. We're never grabbing any images, photos on the side or the top. We're not squishing things, not making them skinny. We don't do this to photos. We don't do this to graphics. Anytime you want to change an image, a graphic, whatever, we are always just grabbing the corners. So now as I move down, notice you see some of these lines that are popping up? I want to pull this thing down until the Granite Bay one gives me a little bit right there. Do you see that? It's matching up. I see those two turquoise lines and says, looks like you're about as tall as that image that's right next to it. Boom, right there. Now I can either drag it, but if I drag it, I may move it too high or too low. I'm going to undo. Practice on this. Watch this. I'm just going to move over a little bit. I'm just holding, can you hear that? Just hitting the keyboard, tapping it along. I don't want to necessarily go all the way because I need to get over here to Granite Bay and delete that because I now know this is perfectly the right size. I'm going to move this, eyeball this one here. I could drag it and line it up perfectly with this, but I may mess up my location on the plane, but let's just kind of eyeball the thing right there. All right, so there's our Del Oro thing. So I've added the logo, changed the sport and the final. The last things I need to do now is just wait for the game, and during the game, change these two, put in my picture, put in my score of 1, score of 2, and be done with it from there. So let's take a break now and be able to go over and see what it looks like on the phone. Ooh, we've magically transformed through the power of technology to pretend to be we're at the game. And you're looking at my phone right now. So I'm at the game. I have thought about that I got to get my final graphic made for the end of the game score. So during the game, I needed to get some photos. Now I may be doing some other stuff. Remember, we talked about you got to be filming at games. I may have to be able to interview a coach and a player afterwards. But during the day, during that event, I need to have thought about getting some photos to pick from. Now, interesting. Remember, we talked about this regarding photos. It doesn't matter. You do not have to get anything really important. What we're looking for is a nice, non-blurry, clean picture, preferably of between 1 to 3 or 4 of the players. It's just an essence of the game. If you can get a little bit of the other team is nice because then we're able to get an understanding that it was the other team that we're playing, that we're not just using a stock photo from a bunch of pictures from any particular football game. So try to be able to get that. So now what we're going to do here is the game is finished. I'm going to say take that photo with your phone. It is the easiest way as of now. We'll maybe talk about some other ways later on to be able to transfer from one of the nice cameras to the phone. But for right now, just pull out your phone and try to be able to get some shots. You're going to be on the sideline or close to the action, so sometimes you can just really kind of get close. Remember, try to be able to move with your feet and get close. Having it on your phone will make it so much easier to put it in there. All right, so I'm over here on slide number 1, and I'm going to now just slide over and get it slide. I got to be able to find the document I was working on. Look at that. Hey, this was what I was doing on the computer. Now I need to be able to change 3 things: our score, Del Oro score, and insert a picture. So watch here as I can simply just pinch and increase the size. I'm going to click on the 99, double click that, and then I have a cursor that shows up over here. I'm going to backspace on that and say, hey, our final score was 24. Yay. Click outside of it and goes away. Double click the Del Oro score, backspace, and say the final score was 24-10. And now I can pinch to get much smaller. So that's it. The score's done. Don't move anything. Last thing I need to do is just simply put a picture in. So I'm going to, up in the top right corner, it says plus, and it says, what do you want to be able to insert? I'm going to insert an image, and I'm going to get this from the photos I have already taken. And here is a picture of the game that I took. Now, here's the problem, right? The picture is kind of big. It has covered up my entire graphic. So using a combination of 2 things, resizing our image, the blue handles, but still that's not going to do much. You could say, well, let me go all the way like this. I've resized it completely. But then the problem with the graphic is I still got a lot of space above it and below it. So we're going to do a combination of things, resize a little bit, but then also the crop tool. And we'll have talked about this in class too at some point. But the crop tool is going to allow me to click on it once is to resize, but if I double click it, and this is the same on the computer, it says drag handles to crop. So now I want to grab some of these black edges here, and that's going to allow me to crop. And we are trying to be able to, as much as we can, think about an Instagram shape kind of for our images. So here, remember I mentioned before, never grab the sides? Well, here you can grab the sides, because grabbing the top, it's actually the opposite. When we crop, we want to grab from the right and left or the top and bottom, because we're cutting those parts out. If you have shot a landscape picture, side to side, horizontal, you're going to want to trim these right and left hand sides, okay? Or if you shoot a vertical shot, you're going to want to do the other. But for the most part, you're going to have your phone turned sideways to try to get those. So that's basically like the square that I'm looking for. If I click anywhere outside of it, it gets rid of those cropped out areas. And now I can see my resize tools are back, and I actually want to fill the space in a little bit more. How big do we want these images? I'm going to pinch in here and show you a little bit. Zoom in, and kind of what we want. I kind of want to be able to think about just that sort of spacing around from the if you notice between the top, the left, and the bottom is roughly about the same margin like you have in your English paper. So we want to have a little bit of a margin around all of those ones. And folks, in essence, there it is. There's our image completely finished. When we're all done, now it simply is this. I need to be able to get this as a picture that we can be able to tweet out. And the easiest way is going to be simply, I'm going to hit present on this device, put it in a slideshow mode, because now we're just going to simply take it here, turn my phone sideways so that I can get it into that particular mode, and then I'm going to hit my screenshot. Now I have a picture of this. Once that is all done, beautiful, I can open up my text message, and we are going to send this thing off to, I told us we're going to send this to Mr. Eckenberg. So when we go to, you're going to be given his cell phone number. And then here is that particular image. And then you hit send, and then you're good to go. And off it goes to him. So that is how we're going to be able to do this. It should be relatively done in a few minutes. And as usual, if you guys have any questions or while you're out there, contact Mr. Eckenberg or myself if you need some assistance along the way. Well, good luck with these.